Good afternoon. Before I begin, would you like to buy some raffle tickets? When Philip asked me to introduce today's speaker, I asked him, how do you introduce someone who needs no introduction? And he said, you went to Georgia Tech, you can figure it out. So I asked Karen Nixon if she could provide me some bio information, and she said I needed to file an open records request. And then I said, well, I'll go to the commission to see if I can get things expedited. And 5 of the commissioners said yes, they would help me out. 4 said no, and 1 wouldn't give me an answer. But after a lot of work and patience, I finally discovered that his bio is on the government website. And if I read this to you, there would be no time for Deke to speak, so I'll be brief. Deke Copenhaver was born in Montreal, Canada, and he was raised in Columbia County. He earned a BA in political science from what was then Augusta College. After working in the securities industry, the real estate industry, and then leading the Central Savannah River Land Trust, he became our mayor in 2005. He served the unexpired term of Bob Young, the remaining term there. And then he was reelected in 2006 and again in 2010. Deke has served on countless boards and councils and foundations over the past years, and he has received numerous recognition and awards for his service and leadership. Deke has the distinction of being the only U.S. mayor to ever complete a sanctioned half Ironman event, and I believe he's done 2. So, are you signed up for this year?
Yeah, I'm good this year.
Good, okay. And I know he also runs in the Augusta Half Marathon because he passed me at mile 10 last year. Are you running that?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll see you at mile 10. Deke is married to the lovely Melissa Boardman Copenhaver, and they live right down the road here with their 3 dogs. So please give a warm Augusta Exchange Club welcome to Mayor Deke Copenhaver.
Well, thank y'all so much for having me, and I would like to recognize Commissioner Donnie Smith, Commissioner Mary Davis, who are here today, along with Fred Russell, and last but not least, my wife, who Karen's mouth sort of dropped open when she saw Melissa come in today. She usually doesn't make it to political events, not that this is one, but I will share with y'all too, this is one of my favorite things to do, to get out and speak directly to people. And I was sharing with Nick Carter before coming up here, you know, through the past years, the knocks on me have been that I'm too positive and I'm non-controversial. Well, if that's what people want to say, that's fine with me, but my faith teaches me to count my blessings. And as a city, Augusta is truly blessed, and through the recession, we've done better than most places. But I'll just sort of lay out for you a few things that I see that have happened over the past year or so, some of the things that I see for the future. And I will just tell you, I am so excited about the future of our city. And despite the fact that our politics can get a little contentious and difficult at times, as Donnie and Mary have seen firsthand in their first month on the job, but they're both doing a great job, our city is moving forward and continuing to build momentum. You know, last year when I came to talk to y'all, I talked about economic development and the fact that we have an internationally known brand name of the city in Augusta for being the home of the Masters, James Brown, Jesse Norman, and that helps with our economic development efforts. Well, last year we had a major economic development announcement with the announcement that Starbucks is bringing a $172 million production facility to Augusta that will create 140 new jobs. Well, one of the things that I think is most significant about that, I've been real blessed to be a part of our economic development team, and usually the way it works is Walter Sprouse and his guys do all the legwork, put all the paperwork together and everything, and I sort of get to come in to help be the closer. But I will share with you one of the things that tipped the balance in Augusta's favor, and for those that don't know, the other finalist city was Florence, South Carolina. Well, the fact that we have a very strong arts and cultural community and our quality of life ultimately brought that facility to Augusta. Y'all may have heard Howard Schultz talk about really his American Jobs Creation Program. This is a facility that's bringing American jobs back from overseas. And I think that is a great thing for the city of Augusta, and I'll share this with y'all too. Through Rural Sourcing Incorporated that we signed up about 2 years ago, they're doing onshoring as well. It's an IT firm here bringing 100 jobs to Augusta, Georgia. They're moving American jobs back from overseas. Automatic Data Processing, who we signed up a number of years ago, Fortune 300 company, they're onshoring as well. They're bringing American jobs back from overseas. That is not going unnoticed at the national level. I've been invited to speak in Phoenix next week about what we're doing in Augusta with regards to being a hub for bringing American jobs back from overseas. And given the climate in the rest of the nation, that's something that I'm extremely proud of for our city to be getting national recognition for that. I've always said that I want Augusta to become a living classroom that other cities can learn from. One of my messages in Phoenix is going to be how we're doing that here in Augusta, and to invite these people from an international audience to Augusta to see how we're doing it. With regards to the local economy, I will share with you guys and ladies that, sorry Karen, but what we have going on in the local economy is amazing, and it's part of what brought Starbucks in. But when you consider the expansion at Plant Vogel, the new NSA facility at Fort Gordon that they've pretty much already outgrown, the merger of the two universities, the potential for the production of small modular nuclear reactors at the Savannah River site, throw on top of that our region was only one of only 3 in the state to approve the T-SPLOST. Each one of those things individually is a game changer for our local economy, and we have all of those things going on at once. Last year it was to this group, because you guys get me first. I do a series of extemporaneous State of the City addresses, but Karen gets me in here first. I spoke to y'all about the Augusta Regional Collaboration Project concept that I'd come up with to really get those sectors of our local economy, medicine, energy, just all these things, talking with each other. So many of these things happen in silos, and we're not leveraging these big things in the local economy as good as we could be. So I came up with this concept to establish an organization to really be the go-between and work with our medical community, the university, our energy field, to leverage our successes to greater heights. Well, through the recruitment process of Starbucks, I met a young gentleman, and he would not want me talking about him publicly, probably. He's just a great guy. But Matt Quatinetz, he graduated from Harvard with a degree in philosophy, moved to Seattle, started an 18,000 square foot performing arts center in an old auto warehouse. After a number of years, realized he was driving up the property values around him. So he went back to Wharton and got his MBA in real estate and finance. So back during the summer, I brought him on to implement the ARC project. He's been here working for 6 months, and this is a guy that he's still consulting with Starbucks. He's splitting time between here, Seattle. He teaches at Wharton in Philadelphia, and his home offices are in New York City. But he's spending more time in Augusta because he sees what's going on here. He sees the potential and wants to help make it happen. And I will share with you guys, and I said it last year, but really, I've only got so much time left on the shot clock. I've got a year and a little under 11 months left, and my goal has been to put enough on the ground by the time I leave office that can't be uprooted by petty politics. And I will spend the next year and however many months trying to rise above everything, really grow the local economy. And I will share with you too, it's just some perspective about the goings on here recently, and I was talking to Donnie Smith about this. The commission is still even functioning, and I think we'll start functioning better as the year goes on. You've got 3 individuals who have never been in that situation before, and I'm sure it's an eye-opener, Mary and Donnie. I spoke to both of them after the commission meeting the other night, and so I know that it's an eye-opener for them. But so often things in Augusta are portrayed as black and white, and I'm like, with the commission, that's not, it's philosophical differences. You've basically got 5 Democrats and 5 Republicans. It makes a better story in the media to sometimes love you guys, glad you're here, but to make it a little more sensationalistic. But at the heart of the issue, that's what we've got. You've got a certain segment of the commission that don't believe in privatizing anything. You've got others that would like to take a look at privatizing whatever we can. So that's really the argument. And I share with people too that so often, when we're portrayed as a city that's racially divided, I go to the Y every morning. That's about the most diverse group of people that you can come in contact with, racially, socioeconomically, age-wise. Nobody's fussing and fighting. That's the Augusta that I see. When I think back to Arts in the Heart of Augusta, 70,000 people over a 3-day period in our city center coming together to celebrate arts and culture. I didn't sense any tension there. That is the Augusta that I see as well. So I think at the grassroots level, the city has moved so far beyond the politics, but there will be a day that really the politics catch up with it. And it's exciting to me to see what the young people in our community are doing, how entrepreneurial they are. Back during December, we were ranked number 2 in the nation for growth in technology jobs in the past 5 years, only behind Des Moines, Iowa. And a lot of people, it's interesting, whenever we get these rankings or get put on these lists, people will argue with me and they act like I've just got some sort of bat phone to these organizations that ranks us high on the list. I'm like, if that was the case, we'd be number 1 on every one. But we do have a very strong and growing technology sector through the Technology Alliance of Georgia now has an Augusta chapter that's really helping to galvanize that. Several weeks ago, we were also named the 4th best city in America to live in by Digital Journal. And once again, that's based on our quality of life, our cost of living, what we're doing with economic development. And that's something that I think that we should all be extremely proud of. 2 weeks ago, we were awarded for our efforts in Laney Walker Bethlehem the HUD Secretary American Planning Association Opportunity and Empowerment Award. We were one of only 2 cities in the nation to receive that award. And I'll just touch on Laney Walker Bethlehem one more time, because it was last year that I shared with y'all why it's so important that we redevelop this area of the inner city. Basically, blighted areas take up an inordinate amount of city resources. As you clean up the areas, you can deploy those resources elsewhere. But what we've done in our flagship development of Heritage Pines, and the program is funded through a $1 increase on the hotel motel room fee, so it's other people's money going to fund this. Last year we were at a 6-to-1 investment ratio, private to public at this point. Now we're at 7-to-1. Last year we were at $3.1 million added to the tax base. Now we're at $3.3 million. It's drawing national attention to the city of Augusta, and that's something I think we should all be proud of too. But once again, just getting back to the point that I made to Nick, we've got issues. We've got a 22% poverty rate that I want to see us do something about. We're starting to address those issues in parts of the inner city. I'm hopeful that with the merger of the university, they'll do more educational and medical outreach within these areas of the city. I think we'll have the potential to do that. So we have issues. We've got crime issues. Our rate is much lower than most cities. We've got a new sheriff that's doing things a little differently. I think Ronnie's the best sheriff we've ever had. Those are big shoes to fill. But even with the difficulties we've got, I will share with y'all, whenever I go anywhere in the state of Georgia, and I was in Atlanta 2 weeks ago for the Mayor's Day conference, people are talking about Augusta. We don't live in a vacuum, and they ask me, how are you guys doing those things in Augusta? But then sometimes when we come back, and Roger, I wanted to thank you for your prayer to begin this, we get distracted by the vocal few who want to tell you that nothing good ever happens in Augusta, that we're a city that's in decline and all this. That is simply not true. And I will share with you, this might not be the best way to put things, but shortly after being elected, Karen and I started doing monthly community forums at all our community centers throughout the city. I just thought, well, that's a good way to be accessible to everybody. Well, after a while, we figured out that the only people that came to those things were the ones that wanted to complain. And I was out at Diamond Lakes Community Center out there, and had 2 guys just sitting in the back of the room telling me, well, we were promised this. You didn't do this. I'm like, I just got into office. I didn't promise you anything. But all they continued to do was complain and complain and complain. And finally, I looked at them and said, look, when I got elected, I didn't build a wall around this city, and you're free to leave anytime you want. And they didn't say another word. But that's the way that I feel, and Nick and I were talking about it. You know, we can't hinge everything on the government at the local level. I'm so disenchanted with what I'm seeing in Washington. I spoke at a national event in New York City, a veterans summit that was put on by the Robin Hood Foundation last year, and I said, when you look at the Augusta Warrior Project, that's a national model for dealing with our heroes that's being deployed in other cities in Charlotte and all. But I said, we've got to change things at the local level. We cannot wait on Washington, but I would say the same thing with our local government. Let Donnie and Mary and I work our way through this, and Fred and the others. But just when I see things like what Barry Story has done on Wheeler Road, you know, that was a citizen stepping up to the plate to beautify a gateway into the community. When you see people willing to invest in the city and not just wait on the government to do everything, that's a good indication to me that people feel good about the city of Augusta. And I'm so blessed because I spend time in all areas of the community on a weekly basis, and there is an excitement out there. I just, you know, riding in the Martin Luther King parade through one of the lowest income areas of the city and seeing everything that's being built there and seeing people excited about their neighborhood, that makes me feel good. Because at the end of the day, you know, there's no black Augusta, white Augusta, East Augusta, West Augusta. It's all Augusta to me. And as far as I'm concerned, I serve a great city, and I just want to thank y'all for everything you do to make our city great. So with that, I'm just going to open it up to any questions that you guys may have, and please don't pull any punches. Come on, y'all got to have, y'all ask them all to Karen when, Donnie, were you standing up to have? I'm sorry. No, I thought you were standing up raising your hand. Yes, sir.
What about baseball? Is that a done deal? Is the team leaving Augusta for sure? Or where are we?
There, you know, and I'll tell you, it's interesting, and that's another thing. We live in a fast-moving world, and I was never asking for final approval on it. I was asking for approval to build a financing model to see if it would be good for the city. But somebody asked me, well, why is it going to go to North Augusta now? I said, well, basically because their city council got to a point in 6 months that we couldn't get to in 6 years. So they've approved building the financing model. I believe it was a 5-to-1 vote. But I will share with you, too, I want to use it as an example for our commission that we're going to get our lunch eaten if we take so long to act on something. We need to keep an open mind, look at things as a good thing or a bad thing, yes, no, move on. But people have thought that I'm mad about that. I'm like, honestly, if they build it, that pumps more money into downtown Augusta, and it's not on my dime. So I'm happy with it. We're now really beginning to discuss a performing arts center on the riverfront. I think the two things would play well off of each other. And my answer to people, I've got 2 words for you: water taxis. You know, take people from downtown Augusta to their facility. So I hope they can make it happen. And I just say too, people want to make everything an emotional issue. The reality of the situation is, the Ripken organization, which now there's a new ownership group, they couldn't grow their business model at Lake Olmsted Stadium. 1 lane in, 1 lane out, and if you're a business owner and you can't grow your business at your present location, you're going to look for another location. It's as simple as that. It wasn't an emotional decision on their part, but finally they couldn't get an ear of anybody really willing to take a look at it, so they had to look for another location. Come on, y'all may.
Deke, could you address the T-Splosh issue that we talked about that was in the paper this morning?
I did not see the paper this morning. What was it?
The 30% match.
About,
The
yeah.
10% match for the counties that didn't pass T-Splosh.
Oh, what they're trying to do in Atlanta?
Yeah.
Changing the match. I don't think that that's going to happen. And I will tell you, we are so, basically, people talk about the 2 Georgias issue being Atlanta and the rest of the state. Well, through the state legislature kicking the T-Splosh back to local governments, they accidentally created another two Georges issue because the three regions that passed it connect throughout the middle of the state. So my first call was to my counterpart in Columbus, who's a dear friend, Teresa Tomlinson, to say, how do we work with this? You know, how can we work together on this? But Tat and I were talking before, and they're going to try some of this stuff in Atlanta. I don't think it's going to happen at all. But really, I've been told by people with the DOT, and I wish Don Grantham was here. I know he is over the moon about this, but that the DOT is going to do everything in their power to bring these projects in on time and on budget, because they realize if they're ever going to get another shot again at passing it statewide, they're going to have to do that. And I'll share with y'all too, we have just been put at a major competitive advantage from an economic development standpoint, because businesses and investment are going to go where they've got the best possible transportation infrastructure, and we'll have it here and connecting to Columbus through the middle of the state. They effectively created a super district for economic development, and I'm just glad we're in that district. You know, it's funny you should ask that. Yeah, I do, because I run the commission meetings themselves, which we went an hour and 45 minutes the other night. Committee meetings that went for 5 hours or whatever the week before, I don't chair any committees and I don't sit on the committees. And the problem that you have in commission meetings, and I think Mary and Donnie would say I run a pretty tight ship, but in commission meetings you have 2 opportunities to speak, 2 minutes per time. So I keep a stopwatch, and I have since I took office, but that's the only opportunity you have to speak. Now in committee meetings, there's no limit on the number of times you can speak. There's no limit on the amount of time you can speak. And we had gotten so far away from that, you know, in past years, that all the commissioners that are in there are saying this is just going too long. We've talked about, do we do them concurrently? You know, this would be a commission decision if we were going to change the way that we do it now. But do we run committees concurrently so that they don't drag out? I will tell you, though, and I know that Donnie and Mary echo this sentiment, it's just not fair to the public to make people come down there and have to sit for 5 hours to wait to get to their items. You know, people have jobs, they have families, and I do believe that the majority of commissioners feel the same way. So we're looking at how we change that situation, because that's it. What's happened the first 2 committee cycles of this year is really has been the exception and not what was the norm. So we're working to address that, and I know Mary and Donnie are very much on the case with me on that one. All righty, well, thank y'all so. Oh, yeah, Charlie, I couldn't miss you. I tell people the next thing I'm going to run for is the hills. But no, I've gotten a lot of questions about that, but I'm really, and Karen will tell you, we have got so many irons in the fire and so many things that y'all will, if we get these things done, you're not going to believe it. It's just that much good stuff going on, but it's running us ragged as it is, and I've got to keep a hyper focus on the things we're working on. I don't even want to think about anything. I'm sure next year is when I'll really start to think about it, when you've got another mayor's race going on and the media are following around that race and taking their attention off of me. No offense, George, I like having you come in and eat my candy and everything, but no, I really haven't thought about it to this point. But I'll let you know what I do. All righty, thank y'all so much for having me.
Deke, we just appreciate so much the way you've represented us in Augusta, and I don't think I've ever seen Deke that he wasn't positive and have a positive vision. And
Lisa has.
okay, well, we know that. But Karen, we appreciate you getting us first on the flight deck each year for this, and I hope this will continue. Do want to remind everybody about those raffle tickets one more time. Remind you that we do have the media donations meeting briefly after this. And Charlie, you got we'll draw 3 now, don't we? Yeah. I'm gonna let the mayor draw 3 cards.
Totally unbiased.